That computer either. There we go. Oh, there we go. Okay, so let's just start. And if I'm moving to computers, so bear with me if I take a second. But I wanted to introduce myself. To begin with, who am I? And that's kind of where the beginning is, because we need to know who we're talking to. It's interesting, you go to a presentation sometimes and you don't know what the person is an expert in or what they're not. And for myself, I think it's important to have that background because it makes a difference as to how you regard them and what they're doing. So I am a Moodle administrator, and I'm also a teacher, and I'm also a professional developer. So what I wanted to start with is explaining to you that I was a struggling student. It just didn't click for me. No matter how hard I tried, it didn't work until my parents bought me a very expensive gift when I was in second grade. And that gift was an Apple IIe computer. And this computer changed everything for me. It changed my entire life. It was as if a light bulb went on and I began to understand. I understood it, and then I was able to teach it. That Apple IIe computer is the reason why I am who I am today. So back to the question, who am I? I'm a teacher. I taught kindergarten, first and second grade. I've looped and I've done multi-age, so that means I've had the same kids for 2 years in a row, and I did multi-age, meaning I had 2 different grade levels in the classroom at the same time. I know it sounds impossible, and trust me, at times I thought it was, but I wouldn't change it for the world. It was the most rewarding experience of my job, was being able to help students find and turn on that light bulb, be it through art, music, or through technology. Approximately 10 years ago, I left the classroom to become an instructional technology specialist. So I have the education background, and I also have the technology background. This allowed me time with teachers to assist them in implementing technology into their daily curriculum. I strive to make the world a smaller place by breaking down the walls of the traditional classroom and connecting teachers and students in collaborative projects. I'm a facilitator, guiding teachers and administrators in using technology to achieve specific outcomes. I'm also a presenter. I've presented at numerous local and national and now international, well, this is not my first time. I've presented here several times before, since I've left the classroom. I've also focused primarily on on different ways Moodle can be integrated into the curriculum and to helping school districts create Moodle communities to foster learning, both teaching teachers and students. I'm also a proud recipient of the Hardcore Moodle badge. Last year, many of you may, if you were here from last year, you may know that I presented on painkillers right before I had surgery. Right now it may appear as that since I've been having some technical difficulties, but last year I earned that badge because I had surgery 2 days after iMoot ended. So that's who I am. My name is Karrie Vitti. I'm the president of Train My Teacher located in New York. Today we're going to look at the course templates. I'm a Moodler. For the past 8 or 9 years, I've been primarily focusing on different ways to implement Moodle, not only in the curriculum, but also how to streamline things that the school districts are doing. So, for instance, when a new teacher comes into the building, we work with them. We have a form created in Moodle to streamline all their account creation. So a secretary goes in and they fill out the information as to what access and what accounts this teacher needs, and it goes straight to our IT staff that then will go ahead and create their accounts. So we use Moodle in more than just creating courses, but we use it for education, but we use it to streamline the processes behind the in the background of the school district. So today we're going to talk about simplifying Moodle course creation via course templates. And I almost have that other computer logged on. So I'm hoping there was nothing in the chat that I missed. So basically what I want to do is when you look at this graphic, I want you to think of Moodle and one course and then how we can create smaller courses off of that by using templates. Now, I should also note, Natalie and I had 2 different concepts of the word template. So I'm using the word template in the sense that making it easier for someone, not as a district-wide template, whereas, Natalie, you jump in and explain what you were talking about with the templates.
Yeah, sometimes a decision's made at a high level that they'd like all the courses to look the same with the same topics in every course for every class, no matter what the level is or the subject. We want everything to look the same, like a professional website or a professional publication. So template is agreed on for everybody to comply with. And if you were in a college that had a very narrow range of courses and everybody was at a similar level, I can see that that would look very professional. But it can be restrictive if you've got different units and people going through in different methods, some face-to-face, some blended, and some in the workplace. Then having a one template type solution is going to cause more troubles than it will solve.
So when we're talking about templates here, we're talking about the process of a teacher creating a course. So I'm not talking about the overall look and feel for a school district or a university or an organization. I'm talking more along the process of actually creating content and simplifying the creation for a teacher. And now I'm finally in my comfort zone because I have both computers working simultaneously. So I apologize for that rough beginning there. So what we're going to do today is I really want this to be more of a conversation. I'm going to go over some content at the beginning, and then I'd really like us to discuss and work together. So the first question I have is, how did you learn how to use Moodle? If you wouldn't mind going back into the course, there is a poll there. And let's see how many people filled that out so far. Okay, so I don't know if people are still answering it or if they have had an opportunity, but it looks like we have 2 people learned by teaching a course that was already created, and then 2 people learned from scratch, and 1 person who learned by using a pre-created course. Let's see if I update that, if we have any more. Okay, so it looks like we have a fair share across, and some of you may not have answered. If you didn't answer it, that's fine. What I would ask is if maybe when you're done with this course, if you wouldn't mind answering that question so I can use that data for my second session. Oh, it looks like now we have 5 people who created a course from scratch. And we're going to talk about the pros and cons of both creating a course, all 3, creating a course from scratch, using a course template, and using a pre-created course. So in my mind, there's really 3 main ways that you learn how to use Moodle. Yes, there are others, but these are the 3 key pieces that I have found in districts. I found teachers either teach a course that's already been created, they start from a blank course, or they use a template. I'm sure there are other ways, but most of the time we've had courses that have been pre-created that someone just steps in and teaches the online course. They have nothing to do with the creation of the course. They're just teaching them something that's already there. Then we have the blank course. And to me, a blank course, my description of Moodle has always been, Moodle is like a blank piece of paper. You can do anything you want with that piece of paper. We might have 20 people. Well, we have 22 people in this session, and I can give 22 people a blank piece of paper, and each person is going to do something different. Somebody might draw, somebody might take notes bulleted, somebody might write paragraph form, somebody might sketch or doodle, somebody might crumple it up in a ball, and somebody else might make a paper airplane out of it. But basically, it's a blank template, and you could do whatever you want with it. I laugh when people tell me, I want to learn how to do Moodle in 2 sessions, 2 workshops, because I really don't think you can. It's like saying I want to learn the Microsoft Office suite. There's so many different facets to learning how to Moodle that there is no one size fits all. So I think sometimes starting from that blank course, although it is great, it can be overwhelming because you don't know everything that has to do with Moodle. What I want to do now is look at the pros and cons. So what are the pros of teaching a course that's already created? Well, it minimizes the learning curve because you're stepping right in and all you're doing is teaching the content. So you don't really have to learn how to create everything within Moodle. And you can concentrate on your teaching methods prior to learning how to create things in Moodle. So there are some pros to teaching a course that's already created. As far as the cons go, the course might be too complex. So if the course is too complex and you're teaching it, you're stuck with it if you don't know how to do any of the creation pieces. Teachers lack ownership because it's not theirs, it's someone else's. It limits their ideas because they may have things that they want to do that they're not able to do. There can be a sense of confusion as well because they don't know what the person had in mind when they created it. We've all opened up a PowerPoint presentation, and quite frankly, the beginning of my PowerPoint presentation, if you were to look at that, you really would have no idea what it was about without me speaking. So that sense of confusion would come in without the person who actually created it. And it can cause frustration because since you didn't create it yourself and it's not something that you designed in your thought process, it can be very confusing to people and frustrating. However, just as many cons as there are the pros that they can concentrate on learning how to teach. So if you have something basic, it may be beneficial for people. And I've had a lot of teachers who've jumped in by teaching a course that was already created. And then after they've done that, they've wanted to go the next step and learn how to create their own course. I know I am from New York and I tend to talk fast. I've been told by Natalie a million times, so if I am going too fast, please slow me down. So let's look at the pros and cons of starting from a blank course. Ooh. Okay. The pros, unlimited possibilities. You can do basically anything that you want within that course. Okay. You can do anything that you want within that course. It's your blank piece of paper. Start from scratch, build it out any way you want. The cons. It's a huge learning curve. So especially for people who are not very technology savvy, if you give them a blank course, it's a huge learning curve for them to be able to actually create something within Moodle. There's a sense of confusion. Where do I begin? How do I start? There's multiple learning factors because they have to learn how to teach online and they have to learn course creation. So the problem comes in, teaching online is one piece and course creation is a whole nother. So you have to learn how to respond to people, how to manage your time, how to facilitate those conversations, how to phrase things correctly. So that's one whole component of teaching online. I really think it's two separate pieces, creating a course that has all the essential features and needs as well as teaching online. They're two different things. So if you're learning them both at the same time, it can become very confusing and overwhelming. So now the pros and cons of using a template. Well, it minimizes the learning curve. You can focus on the content and not the creation, okay? And I think you have a quicker return on investment. I should also add in there that another pro is that they learn how to manipulate a course, but because they're not doing everything from scratch, once they learn how to manipulate that course, they can learn the other pieces as well. They can edit it. See, the difference is, at least in my eyes, is sometimes when you have a course that's already created, you may not want to change some of those factors. You may not want to allow them to add and edit things. Whereas when you're creating something from a template, you have the option to go in and modify things. And if something doesn't work, use a new tool. And you can focus on learning those individual tools at the time that you need to. And the cons? I don't really see any cons. And I'm going to show you some of my examples and you'll see why. So this is an example of a book talk. This is a plain template. Now, some of my slides we're going to have the full templates. Some of them are going to show you courses that have been created from templates, and I'll talk you through them. But this is a template. So I have given this exact course to teachers, and it just says title at the top, topic 1, chapters, discussion question 1, discussion question 2, discussion question 3, and question of the week. If I was to click on discussion question 1, it says type an open-ended question here. I have worksheets that I give the teachers that explain to them what type of questions. So when you're using a discussion question, it needs to be formatted correctly. It needs to be open-ended. It can't have an individual response. So there are a lot of factors that they have to think about when they're creating that course. But all they have to do is hit edit and edit that content. Thank you, Natalie. What is a book talk? We use different terms, and I always forget that. So a book talk to us is a book conversation. It's a group of people who are reading the same book. They might read certain chapters at the same time and answer questions. It's kind of like a literature circle in some aspects. Yes, I agree. You need to be able to customize them. This is just giving them that jumping point, that place to start, so they don't have to learn how to create a forum and then looking at all the different features of a forum. In this example, I've limited to the single simple discussion because, the single simple discussion, because if I gave them a standard forum, your question structure has to be completely different, and you have to give them instructions. So I've made this very simple for them to give them a jumping point, but if they want something else, they can customize these courses. So then they can focus on learning those aspects and bringing those aspects into their course. So here we tell them, type an open-ended question here, where it says question of the week. It basically says type a poll question here and choices below. So when they hit edit, they see exactly where they need to type, and then they see the word choice, and they type their responses in there. It's very canned, I agree, but it's that jumping point for a person who's never done something before. Now I'll show you an example. This is Crash. So the teacher went in, she edited, she wrote in the chapters. So the first section is chapters 1 through 7. The second section is chapters 8 through 14. She edited her discussion question. I reformatted this on my site. That's why it has my name there. But it says, what do you think about the way Crash behaves at Penn's house? Give examples to support your answer. So she put in her discussion question. And then as far as her question of the week goes, which character, Crash or Penn, would you rather have as a friend? So they're able to take these canned pieces and they're able to edit them, and then they're able to go a step further if they choose to do so. And I've had many teachers do that. No, I've never had a problem, because basically what I do, the question came up about removing the template language. I've never had a problem with that, and the reason why is I show them and I do this with them. So basically what I usually do is if I have a group of teachers who are going to work on book talks, for example, I'll have 4 teachers who teach the same grade, and they're all going to create book talks. I sit down with them. I tell them, this is what you're going to do. I have them take their book before they even meet with me. I give them a handout that kind of explains what we're going to be doing. And I say, I want you to break your book into segments. So I want you to break this into chunkable sections that the students can read. Once you've read each of those sections, I want you to come up with 2 to 3 discussion questions for each of those sections. So they create their open-ended discussion questions and they just write them down and come up with a poll. So I talk to them about the poll, the type of questions. Then what they do is they come with that content with me and I help them create it. So they're editing it. So I haven't had a problem with them removing that content. Now I also put 3 discussion questions in there, but I show them how to hide. So if they only have 1 or they only need 1, they can hide it or they can delete it. So they can modify this course. They're not set that they have to have 3 discussion questions and 1 poll. They might decide not to use polls. They hide or delete it. That's not a problem. I'd rather give them the content and give them the groundwork that they can then edit and have them move forward from there. Another example is we've used this for resources, and we've done this in a number of different school districts, and we've done it in a number of different grade levels. I've done this for mathematics, I've done this for social studies, I've done this for science. I basically use this exact same course, and I just have topic sections. Like this one says mathematics, underneath it might be one that says social studies, one underneath it might say science. And those discussion forums there are for the different courses that we teach. I just noticed I do a lot of screenshots, and yes, that is social studies with secondary mathematics written above it. So please pretend you didn't see that. I must have screenshot two different places. But basically, and the example that we're going to pop to is a science one. So we're getting all of the different areas that we study in one slide here. So where it says world history or United States history, these would be the different subsections that you're studying within that overall category. And then what we did here is it's very simple. We have a single standard forum, and it says science resources at the top, or it would say social studies resources, whichever topic. This is a place where you could share valuable documents, PowerPoints, websites, and links to videos. If the topic that your resource pertains to is not listed, please click Add a New Discussion Topic and type the topic as the subject. If the topic that your resource pertains to is listed, click on the listed topic, hit Reply to the previous post. Here you should give a brief description of the resource, add the link, website, or video, or attach a document or PowerPoint. So we've used this template in multiple different domains. I sit down with the school district and I show them how to create this template. It's basically all set up. They just go in and they edit what those main topic sections are and then what those main discussion forums are. So they just basically edit right over here. They would turn on editing and they would edit to make these forums the courses that they are teaching within their school. Once that's done, they would just edit the top title right here, the resource title, and then the teachers would go in and start adding new discussion topics. So an example might be this site has an interactive experiments that you could do with children. They might add some PowerPoint presentations. They might add a link to a YouTube. The purpose of this particular template would be in a school district. Does everybody know what I'm talking about when I say shared network drive? I don't know if you use the same terminology. So you have your hard drive. Okay, good. You have your hard drive on your computer where you save your files, and then we have that collaborative one that all of our teachers use. So it becomes very messy. And again, just like I said, where you open up a PowerPoint or you open up a course, and that course you're not familiar with how they're using it. The problem becomes is you don't know what to do with that. So here, what we're doing is instead of using that shared network drive, we're having teachers post their materials, post their PowerPoints. They're doing it in Moodle. And the reason why they're doing that is I can look back at that PowerPoint and I can say, okay, Natalie, how did you do this? What was your goal here? I don't understand what you did. So that this way I can go in and I can modify it. I can ask questions. If I create a new template off of, take her PowerPoint and I edit it, instead of copying over it, which happens frequently, I add a new discussion thread and I post mine and I say what my changes are. It becomes a conversation. And what's nice about this is that a lot of times we have schools, and I've done this in the multiple schools, where there's 3 or 4 different elementary schools and there's 2 to 4 fourth grade teachers in each of those schools. So across one district, they can look at what their curriculum goals are, and teachers in all 4 schools can share, and they'd be subscribing to these forums so that they would get an email when a new teacher posted a new resource. So this template is very simple. It's really just discussion forums, but it can be modified for any needs. We're going to look at something that we did that was a hybrid course example. Now, I will tell you, this particular course did not work out the way I intended for it to initially, because it was huge, and backup and restores have been a nightmare with this course. So I don't know if I would do it this way again in the future, and I would love some input as to how anyone thinks that this could work easier, because I found that, again, sometimes the teachers, I had a teacher who teaches participation in government. And what happened is that she didn't understand how to use Moodle, okay? But she knew her content really well. And she didn't understand how to break it down from curriculum that was, face-to-face to online. What she ended up doing was teaching a hybrid class. So her high school students, just before they graduated, the seniors, they would take one day in face-to-face with her, and then the next day they would be on their own working online, and then the following day they would meet with her. So to simplify this for her, I created a template. So at the top you see text. That was just a web page that she would go in and she would edit for any like overall background information about this topic. Then when it says class materials, when I gave her this course, everything was hidden. So it said files. So I actually uploaded one blank, a Word document. So this way she can click edit, she can just delete that file and upload a new file. I had 2 pieces in there that were called links. She may or may not use all of them. She can hide them. She can delete them, whatever she wanted. But if she had a link to a website she wanted, she was able to just go right in there and edit it and paste it in. We had a choice in there. I had 3 forms and 2 assignments. So basically she was able to manipulate this, and the labels were set up. So this is topic 1. Topic 2 was an exact copy. Topic 3 was an exact copy. When I say topic, I should also clarify that our topics are not necessarily topic sections here. We might have 3 topics in one section. These were more or less, each topic section was a unit. So there might be 2 to 4 topics in each unit, which is our topic section. I hope that makes sense to you. So basically I gave her all of this. So this way, all she had to do was come up with her foreign questions and edit it and put it in. Later on, what we did, because it was causing some load time errors, is we started deleting out the ones that she wasn't using instead of hiding them. And I taught her how to create a duplicate. So then she was starting to create duplicates. I don't know if a better format, and please, I'm open to suggestions and ideas, and my whole goal is to get everyone talking. I'm trying to go as fast as I can through this beginning part. I'm sorry I got delayed at the beginning. But what my whole goal is for the teachers to be able to duplicate and pull these pieces in individually. So I don't know if it would be a better format to have one of each of these in the top box, and then just have them duplicate and drag them where they need them. But again, I think sometimes having those labels set up for the online activities, it gives the course some kind of structure. And this is basically what it looks like. And you'll see that there are sections that are hidden. And that's because this topic might go on for 3 days and she'll turn the eyes on as she's ready for those pieces. The next one is a current events newspaper circle. This course is basically done. All I have to do is give a clean copy to a teacher, but they can edit it. So it's kind of like having a course that's already created that they start working in, but I allow them to edit it. So the students all you have to do is assign your students a number, and once they have a number, they're put into groups. So student number 1 would be called reporter 1 in this case. And you'll see how each week, and the assignment goes by the topic sections, they rotate. So week 1, they would be the state reporter, week 2, the entertainment, week 3, the national. And then what they do is they go in here and they have article summaries. So they come into this and then they post their article. They write their title as their job for the week. And then they would click in there and they would summarize, and they'd have to give feedback to at least 3 of their peers. Now we've done that particular project with schools in New York. So we've had 2 schools in New York, or 1 class, or we've actually done it with like New York and California, or we'd love to do it with one of your countries if one of your schools are interested. I have schools that are always interested to connect with other people. This is a template for a digital workbook. Now, this is a finished copy of one, but what I want you to notice is the topic sections of the chapters. Then all this had was label 1, label 2, label 3. So understanding our past was label 1, label 2, label 3. And then we had a assignment put in for each one and a blank quiz. The teachers came in and edited them themselves. So let's see if this transition works. Not so clean. Okay. So here's an example of one of the assignments. Now I did see somewhere, and if anybody knows, I did see somewhere on iMoot last year, and I don't remember who did it. What I did was I created this table, and I'd have them copy and paste it inside their submission and edit it. I remember somebody had something where you were able to create a template for this, and then they were able to fill it in. I would love to find that. If anybody knows, please let me know. But what I've done in the past is I've actually created something and then just tell them to copy, paste it, and then fill it in. And then we also have an example of one of the quizzes here. Now, the quiz took more work, but we were able to teach them how to manipulate the content and add their questions. So you didn't have to focus on learning how to create a quiz, but they were able to actually put one together. Superintendent's Conference Day, this is a template, and technically the template, instead of having all those titles there, would say Workshop 1, Workshop 2, Workshop 3. So after our Superintendent's Conference Days, we like to do evaluations. We use Moodle for our evaluations. So they would just go in and edit those titles right there, and it would bring them to one of these workshop evaluations. Yes, the database, that would be another way to do that. Thank you. The only problem, are you talking about the evaluations, or are you talking about the assignments, Sarah? Because for both of them, I had a different purpose. So for the assignments, I'd want that because that's between the teacher and the student, and I don't want it to be public. So those answers, I think it would be a lot of work for some of them to create. As far as these evaluations that I have here, the reason why I did them as as surveys is because of the item analysis that we were able to pull from that. Now, this is a very old example. So it says 2010, 2011. But basically what we did here is we created a course for new teachers. They had to create an online portfolio. So it had all of the topic sections in, and all we had to do was teach them how to upload files. So we taught them how to upload PowerPoints. We taught them how to upload Word documents, but they were to fill in. There's a number of different areas. I don't know if you're going to be able to see the scrolling, but it's reflections, student work, professional development, parent communication, data analysis, student assignments. It's technically scrolling. You can't see it. Use of technology and observations. So they had to fill in all of these different areas. Now, this is a 3-year portfolio. So the first year they created the label that said 2010, 2011. The second year they do 2011, 2012, and the third year 2012, 2013. And basically what they were able to do then is get a running record of somebody's portfolio that they used for assessment and for tenure, which is like a job security that we have here in the U.S. I don't know if you have that where you're located. Okay, so enough of me talking, but let's start a conversation now. And I'm going to try something a little different from what my norm is. Because I'm screen sharing and I'm going to have you jump out, I'm going to show you the next few slides, and then we're going to jump into a link, and I'm going to ask you to participate with me. Again, I don't want this to be all one-sided. I want your input, and I'm hoping that we can come up with some ideas. So I want us to brainstorm together because I'm a strong believer that it takes a village to raise a child, and I think it's going to take a bunch of Moodlers to come up with some great Moodle templates. So I'd like to get all of our opinions and our ideas together to try and build something better. I found working with Natalie, it's been extremely helpful because the two of us were able to bounce off of each other. You know, you have an idea, but you might not express it clearly. So I'd like to get your input in trying to come together. My first question, once we jump into the next section, is what type of templates? What type of courses can we create templates for? Okay. So for instance, we can create a template, I just don't have an example, of a school newspaper. So it could be a blank template, and the template might include activities. It might just include labels, because I have a lot of courses that are created with simply labels and file uploads, because they may not be courses that people are interacting in, but it's another way of using Moodle. So we've actually, instead of publicly printing our newspapers anymore, we have some schools who have created online newspapers. So we have a section, a topic section for each of the different topics that they would be teaching, you know, that they would have in their newspaper, the sports section, the entertainment section, the local news, whatever, what's happening around town. And then in that, the kids would use Moodle to submit their ideas and anyone could participate in this. So we opened it up to the school where people can post and submit ideas that they would like to use, that they would like to see in the newspaper, or like as a spotlight reporter, that they want to write something and add it, but they're not really a part of the newspaper club. And then the newspaper club would edit, they would modify, they might expand upon something, and then they would post those pieces. So basically all we did was we had a course with a ton of labels for them and topic sections, and they would add that content where it had to go and move the most frequent stuff to the top. So this way, when you looked at it, you would see the most frequent articles and everything else, and you'd have a full year worth. And it's no longer a newspaper that's published once a quarter, but it could be a newspaper that's published every 2 weeks because they might put new articles out, or on an ongoing basis. So what kind of templates can we create? What kind of courses can we create? A basic structure. And again, the structure might just be labels or topic sections, or it might include resources and different pieces. What can we create structures for? Now, this slide is not exactly, but it was a slide that kind of described. We're going to use a product called Padlet, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. But once we're done doing that, I'm going to have us kind of manipulate and move the pieces across. I'm going to have the different types of templates listed at the top. And then underneath, I want to look at, oh, I mixed up the slides there. So the first slide, we're going to talk about what elements make a good course. And then we're going to manipulate those around. And after we're done with that, we're going to put the different elements in those topics. And then maybe see who wants to build. And if you don't have a course, I'd be happy to give you areas on my site to build, because if anybody wants to work together on building those templates and reviewing those templates, I would love your input. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is to go back to my course. And in the course, there is a link. Actually, I can post it right here into the... One second. You can click on that link right there, and it'll take you to Okay. So, simplifying Moodle course creation via course templates. So does anybody, if you're not familiar with this product, once you're in here, if you just click, and I'm clicking and nothing's happening. Double click, I'm sorry. There we go. Ha! I knew how to do that. I'm going to write my name. You don't have to write your name, but go ahead and write an idea for a course template. Okay? So I wrote an idea for a newspaper template. Does anybody else have any ideas? Here we go. I love everyone's names. Now let's put some content in there. Small project plans. Awesome. All of your business English courses. Okay. Okay, no problems. But maybe you could give us some ideas as to what you do. So maybe we could put a topic that says business English courses and put it at the top. Or an art show. Meredith, I had a teacher who wanted to do an online virtual gallery, and she did it in Moodle. Cafeteria and lunch menus. Yes, so we can create a template for that. Now I want to see. Best laid plans, right? I thought I had the ability to move your topics, but apparently I don't. Okay. Can anybody else move someone else's? Why can't I? Okay, well, I can only
I
move
can
one.
move. I can move my own, Karrie, but not somebody else's.
Yeah, you can't move someone else's. Okay, so let me try this. All right, well, you know what? We'll just move. We'll just go in here. I'll put Linda can, oh, you know, it scrolls over. The master's degree portfolio. Maybe we could try and line some of these up at the top. There we go. I'm going to delete my newspaper because Natalie, you have it there already.
Karrie, I was just looking at all of these thinking it looks a little bit like when I go shopping for a WordPress template. When somebody says, we've got a hairdresser that wants a website, if you go onto these themes are and theme forest, you can search for an art show or search for a cafeteria or search for a conference template, and instead of starting your WordPress site from scratch, you can download these templates and then plug in the content as you need it. And that sounds like the idea that you've got in mind, that we take a specific small kind of task or small level topic and come up with a bunch of Moodle courses that people can use as starter points.
100%. Like I said, I have a lot of templates, a lot of courses that I use for one school district that I duplicate for another school district, and I just modify for them. You know, something as simple as the workshop evaluation. All of our schools, they do what's called Superintendent's Conference Day. So it's a day of training, and everybody goes to multiple workshops in one day. So you might go to 2 or 3 sessions. And traditionally, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but we used to get a piece of paper, and there were, you know, say you went to 2 workshops, a morning and an afternoon. It was split down, line down the middle, and it said, evaluate your first workshop, evaluate your second workshop. And then you would evaluate both of them. You'd write something down, and you'd hand it in, and basically you'd say, this is for the birds, like who's really going to use this, right? And I'm assuming some of you have had similar type of responses. The only way that is effective is if you cut those down the middle. You then sit down and you make piles for each workshop, and then you look at the content. And even then, when you're looking at everything, you're really not getting a full picture if you're doing, you know, rate this on a scale of 1 to 5. So we took that concept and we broke that concept down. And now what we did is we created, using the survey module, the survey module, we created for the item analysis, because now we're able to say 1 through 5, and I could see with one question how everyone answered. Then I have the feedback at the bottom where you can have multiple questions, and for each of those questions, you have everyone's response. So you can see the question and all the responses. Why is that key? One district that I worked in, for 4 years, they sent every physical education teacher to another company and paid $100 a teacher to go to this one particular workshop, okay? Nobody ever asked them what they did about it until the year that we did this. And they said, responses were like, we've done the same workshop 5 years in a row. This is a waste of our time. I've done this before. I'd rather learn about what Dorothy's doing with her kids in one of the schools. The teachers, they didn't even find it effective themselves, but nobody asked them. Think about the amount of money the school district spent sending them outside to get this workshop that wasn't even something of benefit to them. But that's all because they weren't using things to streamline. So my idea is to find ways that we could streamline things within Moodle, create those small segments, and then push them out. I have schools where every teacher creates a Moodle course, and their Moodle course is their website. Instead of using some of the content management systems that they were using, where the teachers each create their own web page, we started having them create them in Moodle. The reason being, they could start off with something that's open to the public that everyone can access, and there's no actual conversations or forums where the students are participating, but when the teacher becomes more comfortable, then they could start editing them. I don't understand the question. I'm sorry. So basically what we were able to do there is, instead of teaching our teachers how to create a website and then how to create a Moodle course, we taught them how to create a Moodle website. And then as they were moving forward with that, we taught them how to add new pieces in. Basically, when I teach people how to create a course from scratch, in those cases, we basically give them a blank course, and all I teach them how to do is add labels, add links, and upload files. That's it. I teach them 3 pieces. So this way they can create their Moodle website and then learn how to do all the interaction. Nobody ever asked, so the question is, did the school management not listen to the PE teachers? It was interesting. The PE teachers filled out that exact same evaluation that was on a piece of paper that was handed in. So the school management essentially never listened to it because they never looked at them. Teachers filled those out, and they had a big stack of, 1,000 people's evaluations with 2 on each page, and they would look through them. But I guess they never picked out the ones from the phys ed teachers. So by doing it this way, by using the survey tool, you were able to actually get that item analysis. So now, instead of going through 1,000 papers, if you had 20 workshops, 1,000 papers that each had 2 evaluations on it, if you had 20 workshops or 10 workshops, you were able to pull that one report for each of those workshops. Do you see the difference in how that was able to streamline the solution? We're only looking at one piece of paper that fully evaluated, rather than 1,000 pieces of paper that really had 2, so essentially 2,000, that were in no order whatsoever. Yes, the one page. This was able to give them the one page screenshot of how each of those courses went and what the teachers liked or didn't like. And it was also able to give them an idea as to which ones they needed follow-up for. So which workshops were people really interested in? So, I think that it's important that we come up with these. So, I can't move these around. So my second session will be structured differently. And I know that I'm actually pretty much out of time. If anybody wants to stay and come up with ideas, and please throw your mics on. This is a conversation. I want your opinion. So instead of typing in the chat box, throw your mic on and talk. What do you think about this concept? What do you think about the idea? Does anybody want to work on some of these? So Dom, you wrote conference, and iMoot is a perfect example of exactly what I'm talking about. You created a template and gave each of us a template that we are editing as instructors, right? So that's the exact example. You're giving us a blueprint. You're giving us a layout. And then we can modify it any way we want. But you gave us a jumping point. You gave us a starting point. You gave us some structure. For a new person who comes into a blank course and has to figure all of that out, it's overwhelming. And I really have found that my book talk, that first one I showed you, it gets a little better each year. Yes, you're right. But my book talk that I showed you.
But Karrie, what Dom's made, or whoever's made it with the iMoot site, it's more than just a course. It's a whole site devoted to a conference. And there's probably potential here, not just for a course template, but for even a site template. And I was saying earlier that I've got the shoehorn theme from Gareth, and I'm having great fun redesigning a Moodle site as a gaming platform. And I've made system-wide changes to the way that the gradebook works, and just taken a Moodle site for one purpose, and I'm enjoying customizing it for that. And there must be other examples like that out there if anybody can think of any.
And I'd love to see, eventually, and I know it's a lot of work, and I know we have the course format expert here, so I'm not gonna throw, anything,
No.
but I would love to see a way
Dom, that would get the students in. When I did my teacher training, the first thing my trainer teacher said to me was, if you want to relate to the boys, you've got to run a footy tipping comp in roll call. I'm like, that's not going to happen. I don't understand football. I can't do that.
Right. Natalie, what does that mean for us here in New York? What is football?
Oh, it's beyond me. I don't get it. But Aussie people like to bet on which football team's going to win on the weekend, and it's an obsession. It's
betting, like betting.
Yep. I was told to get my year 11 and 12 kids to bet to get them engaged.
Kind of like fantasy football. Do you have fantasy football? Natalie and I go back and forth. She teaches me new words. She says something, and I have no idea what she's referring to. Fantasy football.
See, when you say fantasy football, I'm probably imagining something very different to what you are.
No, wait. Is football for you guys soccer or football? Football. Is it a white ball that you're kicking around on the ground with your feet, or is it a brown, like?
Oh, they changed it. When I was a kid, it was the one where you grab people and knock them down. But now I think it's changed.
So that goes to show you the differences in how we make those connections. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take a little credit because I did it a couple of years ago where I created the iMoot Facebook group, right, Natalie? Because I felt like we needed to keep these connections going, and we learned so much from each other. So I created that iMoot Facebook group so that this way we can talk all year long and ask questions and throw things out. But I think that it's important for us to come up with some ideas and maybe some goals, and I'd love to see people who are interested in working on some of these pieces, and maybe we can create a whole new section of Moodle with templates that we could share. And I know that the templates, are kind of, I guess if you want to think about it in one aspect, it's kind of like a mini course format. Does that make any sense? But without creating as much work as creating a course format. The course format is more the structure, and this is more like, I don't know how to describe that. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, I'm getting it.
But I think that some of it can be done without, harassing the template, the course format king who's on here. Ooh, he's intrigued though. Structure versus framework, yes. Thanks, Meredith. But if we could think of a way, to do that, is there a way rather than, and we have the Moodle Kings in here, is there a way, and I may just not know this, that might exist, is there a way to take a template? So say I create a course and I want to allow people to copy that course. I know it's not a course format, but is there a way to create multiple courses without backup and restore of the same course? Did that make sense? Because right now when I have a template or a course that I like that I want to modify, I create a backup of it and then I restore it. So when I'm doing something like the class web pages, if I want to give them a structure, I actually have to back up and restore it individually for each teacher. So I might do that 10. There was one district I had to do something, and I kid you not, I did like 40 of them. Is there a faster way to streamline that? I could say, choose from this course to create.
I don't know of any things within Moodle Core that can achieve that, but I know institutes do have customized solutions that do that.
Hi, Karrie, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. That very question was on the courses and course formats forum a little while ago. Backup and restore was one of the answers, but a few people have really struggled with CSV upload. There is like a template, and I'm not sure how far that along is, and I don't think it does everything that you need it to do. But I mean, I think that's almost something that needs to be driven forward from asking Moodle HQ to push that area forward. Or
so in that CSV file, can you add a column to identify a course ID to be used as a template during the restore?
I think you can identify a file name of a course backup file to use automatically as a template.
Well, yeah, that would work then.
I don't know how it works. I don't know how. I've never tried it. Sorry, Stefan.
I've used it. It was a lifesaver for me because we have got these templates for the courses that we use with students who are redoing their school leaving qualifications, and I have to create about 20 of the exact same courses. It's actually quite advanced now. What you have to do is basically you fill in a spreadsheet with the information, course ID number, course title, into which course section it goes, and then you can specify either an existing course that is already on Moodle, that should be the basis for all the courses created. So it will then use that course as a template and create 25 copies of that course. And then you just have to assign the teacher roles and student roles afterwards. Or later in the process, if you don't specify a template course, you can navigate to a course backup that you have stored in Moodle, or you can even upload one, and then the bulk course creation feature will use that file to create the courses from that template. Try it out. It really, really is good. I'm sure there is a video on YouTube in the official Moodle channel. I think Mary Cooch did that. And it really is great because, you know, I used to take about half a day doing those, and now I can do them in just over half an hour.
I'm going to definitely have to look into that. One of the things that I would love to see, and I didn't put screenshots in here because I think my conversations with Natalie, we do something called a plan book, and it would be confusing. And I know we actually started using the template. I forgot which template was it that you created that we started using, the one with the calendar. I don't know what you called it. We started using a different template that, but we created a plan book, which is basically like Natalie, what is the word you used? It's like our agenda for the day. Each day the teachers had to put in what they were doing in social studies and science and math and what subject they were doing.
Session plan, lesson plan?
Yes. So we call them a plan book here. So we actually create courses where every single teacher has to create a plan book. So what they're doing in the classroom has to be listed there. And then so the administration can look in and walk into their classroom at any time and observe them. Now, with that being said, we had 3 different plan book options for them to use. We were backing up and restoring for each one. Personally, I would love to see us be able to list like the course template, like the course formats, but I think course formats and templates are similar, but they can be different in some aspects, because some of them might actually have more content in them than the format. So what I would love to see is, I like my teachers to request their course, so it automatically puts them in as the teacher. I'd love to see like where you can select if they want to do it off of a format and if they want to do it off of a template, what template that they want there, if that makes any sense.
Lydia's asked a question there. Do you mind if I jump in and answer that, Karrie?
So.
Yeah, Lydia, I haven't been a big fan of templates over the years because of the way I've seen them implemented. And somebody else asked earlier about the problem of having the template language replaced with real content. And that was my first problem with it, is that there were so many courses coming through where it was either lack of skill or lack of time that students were being given courses that still had a lot of template language in there, and there wasn't enough time or resources to put any control points in there. So I think the only solution to that is to not put the template language in the first place if you don't have the quality control down the line to enforce it. And your question there about generic templates, there's a huge desire for the generic template, and Karrie made a statement clear at the front, that's not what her vision is at all, and she's articulated that well, but we keep on hearing this, let's make a really professional looking website for all of our students so that they know that when they want their assessment, it's always going to look like this and be in this position on the page, and the students will like it. And I'd really like to know if anyone actually has any hard research into that, rather than it just being opinions of different parties involved. And from my personal opinion, which is not database at all. I just came into this Moodle world from a web design background, and for many years I'd been making websites and asking people to add content and keep them up to date, and they didn't. So my websites very quickly became useless because the people didn't have the ability to maintain them. So when content management systems like Joomla and WordPress came along, I was cheering because I thought finally people are going to have modern, up-to-date content in their website. But you know that didn't really happen. People, even though they've got the tools now, they still struggle to update the content. So I thought Moodle was going to be like that. Here's a tool for teachers. You can add your own content, be in control yourself. It's easy enough for anyone to do. And I still kind of sit on that side of the fence that I'd prefer to give teachers a tool to work with at a level that they're comfortable at and build the skills up rather than giving them an institute-wide generic template.
Now,
That's not what content management system's about.
Natalie, I want to throw something at you, and I agree with you about system-wide templates, but there are certain things that I have found, and I will look for it for you. I had it somewhere. There are certain things that I have always found, like I found the block placement for our courses. I didn't care how they designed most of their courses, but I found the block placement was important. There is research that shows when you're designing a menu for a restaurant, if you notice, oftentimes the specials are on, if they're not on a separate page, if you're looking at a one page, the specials are on the right-hand side boxed off. And one of the reasons why is someone actually gave me the documentation for it. When you're reading, your eye ends at the right, okay? So when your eye ends at the right, that's what's most prominent that's the last thing that's left in your mind. So when you're looking at like a menu layout, your specials or your most highly priced items are usually on the right, okay? So when you think about it that way, when I lay out my courses, I usually lay out the most important stuff or the stuff that changes on the right. And on the left-hand side, I have them put the blocks and the content that's static. So the online users, the most recent activities. I actually like using, and that's one thing I find frustrating with a lot of the layouts that we have is that they're no longer, like, I wish they all had two columns one on each side, because I hate when both like you have two columns of blocks on the right, because I want some of them on the left personally. Because I like having like the things that change on the right because that brings their attention to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll have a chat to you about that one later because I did get some research on hotspots and the Audi website on that. But there's probably a lot of people that need to be somewhere else pretty soon because the hour's up now.
Jacob, I'd love if you can share a copy of your template. Or even a screenshot in the course. I have an area that you can upload to. I'd love to see what you're using. Thank you all for coming, and I'd love to continue the conversation. If anybody is interested, please reach out at any point in time.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for chipping in on the discussions and meeting you all. Look forward to seeing you in the rooms over the next few days.
My hope is that this becomes more of just a one-time workshop session and that we can continue the conversation and maybe build together.
Yeah, hi, Karrie. Thank you very much on behalf of the iMoot team. It was a very interesting discussion, and you're right, it could just keep going on. And thank you, Natalie, for contributing as well. A new session will start in about 15 minutes, so you've got at least 14 minutes left. But from behalf of the iMoot team, we appreciate all the effort that you've gone into. Thank you very much.
Glad to be here. See you later.
Thank you.